All right, thank you for staying with us. The travel documents of the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Betta Edu, and her predecessor, Sadiya Umar Farouk, are now in the custody of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in Abuja. What that means is that both of them may not be able to leave the country anytime soon, and going forward, Betta Edu will become a regular guest for interrogators at the EFCC until investigations are concluded. TVC News' Joke Adisa, who has been monitoring the situation in Abuja, now reports.
About 12 hours of questioning by a team of EFCC interrogators, suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Edu, was allowed to go home at about 11 p.m. on Tuesday. In line with the conditions for the administrative bail, she is to report every day to the Commission. Just like the former minister, she will also be unable to travel out of the country while the investigation is ongoing. In a telephone chat, spokesman of the Commission, Dele Oyewale, confirmed the EFCC has taken custody of their travel documents. TVC News also gathered that 3 bank executives are also being interrogated in connection with the alleged 37 billion naira fraud in the ministry. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation was created to develop humanitarian policies. It is also to provide effective coordination of national and international humanitarian interventions. The outcome of the Commission's investigations will determine the fate of the accused persons as to whether or not they will have a date in court. Joke Adisa, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, joining us to discuss this in the studio is the convener, Campaign for Dignity in Governance, Razak Ulukoba. Good morning.
Thank you
it's
very
good
much.
to have
good
you
morning.
join us.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's a new year with so many drama already unfolding as it is, especially from the humanitarian ministry. And I am wondering what you interpret with regards to these developments out of the humanitarian ministry, because this is a ministry that is meant to cushion the effect of social issues that are affecting some persons who are said to be the most vulnerable in the society. But as it is, some persons seemingly are actually taking care of themselves as against the most vulnerable.
Well, any sector that has to do with disbursement, the inappropriacy in finances always come out easily. If it is a word of contract, it's so complicated and complex that takes a lot of time before you unravel it. But direct disbursement of this nature, you notice it on time. If you look at pension and salaries of people, ghost workers, and so you detect it on time. But contract will be awarded and almost executed to half before you say that the procurement procedure were not followed. It's a thing that calls for concern. What gives people, Nigerians, a lot of consolation is actually the attitude of the president towards it. He has expressed it from the beginning of the administration that he's not going to take a bullet for any of his minister or
that it was not going to be business as usual.
Yes, or head of his agencies. And he has demonstrated that by saying that he needs to account for all these allegations and what have you. If you look at it very well, what he has done is very appropriate, because if there's no evidence of attempt to make that transfer, it will have been a rumor and Edu will still be there as a minister today. There are 3 angles that you have to quickly look at. And that is why we need more information. The Minister for Information has done the needful, because he represents the government, and we said we need to hear the voice of the government all the time. By coming out to say that we are looking into it, it's a step in the right direction. The event itself, we have to assume, did they do it alone? If she had done it alone, she must have explanation for that. The second thing is that the Accountant General of the Federation is the custody of our money, is the accounting officer of the Federation. But for the ministry, the permanent secretary is the accounting officer of the ministry. And what the accounting officer of the ministry will say should not be different from what the AGF will say. So what happened when that letter came up, when that instruction came out? So is it that, which is the second thing now? The first one is, did she do it alone? Is it to the knowledge of the ministry? Because the permanent secretary that has gotten to that height, there's no how he won't say anything about the letter. So, which is also a suspicion that maybe the ministry knows about it. Then if the ministry knows about it, where was the submission? There must be a submission from the coordinating officer to director, to PAMSEC, to the minister. If that is the case, Edu has no case to answer. It is a position of the ministry because there are peculiarities where money can be paid, but there must be submission. There must be argument for it that if you are going to remote villages, these are the issues and things like that. So if that is the case, that's an angle. The first one, did she do it alone? Why will you do it alone? Is the Minister of Affairs. Then the third one is the sabotage.
Right.
That was it lured into what she did, giving her the impression that you can do it, we can do such a thing. So
she argued that she followed due process.
If she followed due process, then the investigation is in the right direction. There must be submission. The justification for what she has done, there must be a precedent. Because before you do that, you can't say for the love of Nigerians, you are doing things that the law did not allow you to do. But if you must do things that don't allow you to do, there must be a semblance of approval. Ministerial Tenders Board, there must, where all key officers will be present. So if that is what has happened, what we need to do is to explain to Nigeria, and it must not take long for us to know this.
If that's the case, the issue of sabotage, is that likely to be a way to exonerate her? When you also look at the fact that she has, maybe not of this magnitude, but, having served as a commissioner in her home state, she should know the workings of civil procedure, civil service procedures and all of that. If at all, will that avail her innocence? We
can't give her a tap on her wrist and say, go back to your work. She has to be blamed. The moment you want to go into public service, and that's what we kept telling people, don't start reading definition of public administration on social media. Acquire academic knowledge. The moment you are a public office holder, have a preamble knowledge of what public service is. Read literature. There's so that I
believe that is what the retreat they had.
The public accounting officer.
They had a retreat, remember, where they were all brought together and they were giving their KPIs. So it was about making them understand what being in the office is about. So
that's the general logic. When it comes to specifics,
you
must go out of the way to secure this knowledge yourself. And what I mean by that is once you have an average intelligence, you should be able to man any ministry in Nigeria because there's a minister there and there's a permanent secretary who is supposed to put you through. But today, there's this attitude from everybody in the face of people who are knowledgeable. Someone will just say that I have my opinion to express. And when knowledge comes, right is suspended. When the good doctor will tell you this, there's someone who read the journal on anatomy who is not a doctor on social media. Be arguing with a doctor. So there are experts in public administration. They are in the ministry. There are experts on public accounting. They are in the ministry. But with this attitude of, no, I have my knowledge about this thing, I've Googled it on social media, this is how they do it. It doesn't help. And that comes to the question of sabotage, that if it is sabotage, nobody will take that excuse from her. But to be clear enough to say that, okay, where is the file that advised you to do this? Because the way ministry works, people call it bureaucracy, but it's good for us. The civil service in Nigeria is so complex that you can't claim not to have a knowledge of about to commit an error. You'll be advised. And the moment you say, when you say junior officer saying that as directed, there's a danger, which means it has passed the buck back to you that you directed it. But when certain language will be used, but you won't know all these things unless you have someone to interpret some of these things to you. So you must work closely with the civil service. If the civil service doesn't want the manifesto of political party to be successful, they can do it. They have a way of doing it. And that is why the president must also beam the searchlight on the civil servant, because in most cases, you watch political class committing all these errors. Our taxpayers' money. It's not fair, it's not proper. So on this note too, Betta Edu is not the one to be, it's not the person to be questioned. The AGF that raised the alarm did the right thing for us.
Yeah.
But the question was go back to the permanent secretary. Are you aware of this? It needs to be asked questions. Until that time comes when the permanent secretary will express it that this is evidence of my advice on this subject matter.
But the PAMSEC is the one heading the ministry now.
No.
Is the PAMSEC is under the minister, but is the accounting officer. Nothing goes in or comes in or come out of the ministry without the knowledge of the permanent secretary. But there's always a friction between the political class. The political class are always in a hurry to achieve the manifesto of their party. But the permanent secretary always
Due process.
talk about due process. So that's why I said, if they want to slow your manifesto down, they will do it, which may likely be the case. There are 3 scenarios that were printed now. Did she do it on her own? Did she act according to what the ministry position is? If that is the case, fine for her. If it is a sabotage, it will also be indicative. And for what we have seen now, this administration shows clearly that is in tune with what the people want. The people got angry about it, and there was that swift movement from the president. And it's a signal to all other ministers and head of agencies that we have seen what has happened to Betta Edu now. There must be no excuse for me under Minister of I didn't know. Go and get a proper knowledge about how to do your work. No excuse again, because the challenge the government have at the moment of poverty, what to eat, of security and things like that, it will not be fair for any minister to be dragging us back because of lack of knowledge of what to do. The initiative was a good one that, they started doing it at this time, that now it's now humanitarian service. And what you must also learn from this, the reason why we want to reach people directly is because of challenge on data. And where the challenge on data comes from, we have to trace it back. You trace it back to the challenge we have from the foundation of the country itself. You cannot have an accurate data when you keep having governors to submit the list of people you have in their state and at population time. The more people I have in my state, the more you give me as a president. So it's expected that I will not declare the appropriate number of people in my state. So when moments like this come, how many people do you have in your state? You want to do poverty alleviation or humanitarian service for the people in your state. So the challenge is always that the extra 2 million that added on it is the case in all the states. Don't let us, when times comes to tell ourselves the national truth, don't let us bury it too.
We are not burying.
That's where the challenge is coming from.
Having this conversation.
And that is why the president
keep blaming it on data, on not having accurate data. But we have also...
Okay, because why do you want to give people money directly?
So why haven't we worked on getting this data?
And that's why we are proposing to the president.
So aside that, we have seen the matters of this issue of Abacha repatriated funds that have also been disbursed to persons. We see that there are certain NGOs who monitor the process and give details on how this thing was done if you want to get the figures.
People who came after them said that there were deficiencies.
As much as this? Yes. We're still talking about over 133 million Nigerians in multidimensional poverty. And we have spent so much at saying that we are addressing these issues, yet we can't.
How are you addressing it? By creating more outfits, more agencies, more ministries to address it. That's not.
Why are we not monitoring the process?
You cannot monitor, you cannot fabricate non-existing people, which is the challenge.
Yeah, but that was the challenge that the Council of State also, saw through, that governors should not, be the ones to generate. Okay, no, I think what they wanted was for governors to generate the social welfare register, and
that's where the challenge comes from.
But now you are saying that
when the governor generates it, there's a problem, because the moment you finish the census program, it must enter the national.
Why can't we have independent bodies who can monitor these things? When it comes to us, distributing for perhaps, what did we call it now? Immunization, for instance. We do it successfully. We say we have figures, we have data. When it comes to money,
that's immunization, not money.
Difficult, and money is quite different.
See,
it doesn't make sense.
See, once you have strong institutions, you don't need individual involvement. It's a template.
Do we have that now?
You can't have. That's why I'm saying that you can't have, because the more you think you want the state to do the collation for you, the more the challenge you pose.
Who should do the collation then?
No, what we should do is a structural thing that we're advising the president now, that the way what people do all over the world is that you clip the wing of these excesses by structures. Don't allow the president to keep feeding the state. If you say creation of local government, it's because I'm collecting money from Abuja. That's something I'm talking about, creation of state. The moment you reverse the trend, where it is the state that generates its own resources and give federal government its own portion, every state will declare their own number, because the more money you have in your state, the more people you claim you have in your state, the more people you will give to federal government. And that federal government will be interested even you have more people, because you pay more money to federal government. So at that time, there's an equilibrium. That's what happened in previous years when they were successful data on how to reach out to people. So when you have that, people will give you the accurate data of their people. In fact, nobody will talk about local government, because it's the business of the state. Every state will declare the number. National data will work. Nobody will sabotage it again. Everything will be proper. So when you request, as at that time, it will have been at the disposal of the national data, the statistics body that time. So that you just tap into it. How many people do we want in the state? Female, age grade, age bracket, you put 1 million people names, you have their bank. That's how people all over the world get their social security numbers.
So are you saying
why is it getting sabotaged in Nigeria? People don't trace it back to where the genesis is. Where the genesis is that it's been lumped together. Because I'm a governor of my state, I need more money for roads. Maybe you are the president that wants to feed all the 30 states of the federation. Fine. I'll keep demanding from a local government, and I'll tell you I'm 10 million when I'm just 5 million. So there's always that crisis when it comes to when you have data, and that is why even the ID card, the immigration, the police, they are always alarmed when they want to seek the assistance of NIPOs and the state. There must be that collaboration. There's always that crisis. So the way to put it back behind us is what the president himself has identified with us a long time ago, that it's a structural challenge. If you don't do that, forget about data. There will be no accurate data, because you can't stop states from making more excuse to get more money from the federal government.
But let us,
all states will do, it's natural.
Let us talk, more specifically, because, okay, you said earlier on, and rightly so, the Buhari administration brought about this peculiar ministry, and the Tinubu administration, updates, somehow poverty alleviation top on his mind. But people are saying this ministry appears to be cursed. Betta Edu's predecessor is also in the EFCC net at the moment. The NSIP CEO is also in the EFCC's net, and now the incumbent minister. Are you saying that this program will fail under its present structure? The millions of Nigerians in dire need of this aid from the government will not get at it?
Well, that's the summary of what you are saying, that if you bring another person in, expect similar challenge. The magnitude might not be this, and the intent might not be to defraud. The lady might be desperate to perform. Let's get information from what the EFCC will tell us and the Minister of Information will tell us. Let's get information. But it may not be different. Look at the history of allegations, or look at the history of anything that has to do with data in this country. There's always a challenge. When COVID came, they want to reach out to people. There will be that challenge if we don't look at the way it is. If it is the child that will keep feeding the children will be a bit reckless.
So,
but when it gets with time,
what you're saying is we going the way of true federalism.
Yes.
As a number of persons have put it.
These are deficiencies that always come out of this kind of a structure. It's expected. So, and you can't have a president that have this kind of vision and will be suffering from this kind of frustration. Well, it's someone who wants to perform. He wants everybody to be happy. He wants to bring that happiness to us. So, and we have to quickly remind him. He might be engrossed with the work he's doing. So we have to keep reminding him, Your Excellency, sir, we have seen that you want to take us to what we are aspiring for all this while. In Nigeria, where the rest of the world who want to come and live their life, where they want to come and prosper, seek for greener pasture. And there's a possibility under your regime. But let's remind you that the structural challenge is the similar thing that Obasanjo had for 8 years. Only for him to come out and recognize that, of course, there are structural issues in this country. The same thing when Jonathan left.
It's so difficult to address this structural.
The moment the president gets into the office, they are always engrossed, in fairness to them. And that's why we keep reminding, that's why we must make it look as if we are not criticizing. There were errors in the past. When Obasanjo got there, we were combative with him. That why will you not see it? You were a military president and you came now. Why will you not see that this structure cannot work? The same attitude with it was when Buhari came in that we felt that the mood and the pattern of our explanation must change. And it took Buhari 7 years, 9 months to realize that, okay, yes, you are right. The question of electricity cannot be successful if we don't devolve certain power to the states. And he did that. The same thing train, the same thing security. But if we enter into mood of the Buhari and Tinubu should know that we are with him together, you won't get your point. Someone who didn't sleep well last night, he slept for 2-3 hours every day because of Nigeria. You are now combative with him. He won't understand what you are saying. So we have to carefully explain it to him. We have to carefully explain to him that, Mr. President, your intentions are good. We understand that. But when you have a car that is rickety, you can't blame the driver. Repair your car. If you have to have a smooth journey, let's do something about it. So all these things we are witnessing is falls on data. When we have a national database, nobody will be thinking of paying money into private account because, in fairness, the end users of this facility, 90% of them will always get the money in cash.
Right. Because
90%.
They are unbanked.
They are unbanked because the people targeted are naturally the downtrodden. The people who, so most of them, I think, and the River area will spend 6 hours to get there, 6 hours to come. You want to come and collect 10,000 naira, and you spend 6 hours on boat. Go on. Nobody wants, but if you take cash, you go and meet them there. But by the time you have a national database, nobody has to travel over on IC to collect your own 10,000 naira, or as maybe 50 or 100,000 naira. The same thing in the north, where you have people in the remote area that even if you put your money in the bank, it's a waste. The distance between where you are living to where there's the bank is, it's a waste of time because you need the money for daily transaction every day as a commercial person. So this is the argument at times for all the people who are in charge in all the states as well too.
Let's quickly get your thoughts on perhaps as they're talking about structural adjustments now, civil service rules. This Tony, it appears to be a controversial issue of paying monies into private accounts, and the minister has said there were no infractions on her part, and in any case there appears to be a trend where there will be certain instances where monies are allowed to pass through private accounts. Data Fight brought up data in 2021, how that more than 4 billion naira had gone from the Federation account, so to speak, into private account within 3 months alone. So what should be the norm in this regard? There is a place for project accountants, which apparently the minister fell on, used as her excuse.
There's nothing we can do about certain peculiarities. For instance, when you are executing some projects, road projects, building, there's what is called the prelim. The prelim is a fund project meant for the officers that is going to be seen today. You don't expect a civil servant to be using his money to go and monitor project on IC all over. So no officer will agree to get the money into his own account. So the contractor will either pay you to one person. So when you are doing your tax, FIS will ask you that question. Who is this? I will tell you it's prelim. So why do you pay into private account? then you offer explanation. The same thing in the ministry too. There are instances where, but you don't take a unilateral decision. There must be a submission to that effect. The contract will spell it out. So that's the evidence we are asking Edu now. That where was that decision taken? There must be sequence. The officer, the ministerial tenders board, I know all those things. It's not a thing you mouth and you expect people to believe you. There must be something she will hold on to. When the accounting officer, the AGL, saw this, he said, oh, what is this? It shouldn't be the minister that should be answering the question. It should be the accounting officer of the ministry, which is the permanent secretary. So for him to have kept quiet, we need to ask more questions. Right. That is it likely that she didn't? No. So there's that information that we need from the government, and because of the image.
Because of time, let me just quickly throw this in. The president has asked that the ministry be looked into. If it's a matter of a structural defect and all of these issues, let it be addressed. But there are also those who are saying perhaps the ministry should be scrapped as it is.
You can't scrap it.
Even as we are looking to make some adjustment, where do you stand with regards to that?
Well, you can't scrap it because it's a United Nations concern. That there are people that no matter what you do, the effect of government cannot get to them directly. And each country is encouraged to come up with this kind of initiative. In the rest of the country, it's not called humanitarian service. For instance, if you go to US, that's what we call the social service intervention, where people who don't work goes to and collect their own. So in our own, this is our own social service intervention for our people. So you can't scrap it. You have to continue to modify it because it's actually one of the best initiatives that this government will get credit for. So the president has done the needful by saying that he needs to look into it. People need this ministry. It should not go. I want to appeal to the president that whatever is going to take him to make it work, he should do it. It's getting to the people. People see it, even if it is not across the nation as well expected it to be. But there's an improvement. So it should stay. The ministry should stay. The deficiency and the defect is what we should address.
All right. We'll have to leave this conversation here now. Razak Olukoba, convener, Campaign for Dignity in Governance. Thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Right. We'll take a break.